a lot of hate against foreigner drivers.
Why
Because
is
you want me to use questions? They're just a truck driver, a dumb truck driver.
Hey, but you gotta remember, I'm in the industry. You're not.
Welcome to the Truck Stop Show. My name is Ali, and today we're joined by Damian, who has been in trucking industry for a few decades. So let's talk to Damian. Damian,
Well, a few decades, you're giving me too much credit, but yeah, like 9 years. But I'm doing good. And how are
let's
you
drop
doing?
it down to 1 decade then.
Yeah, 1 decade. Yeah, yeah,
But I think that's long enough to
yeah.
know trucking, I guess. So, Damian, tell us about your journey in trucking.
My journey in trucking. So my journey in trucking, I started in 2017 or 2016, around that time. Um, I went to trucking school just like everybody else. Um, I did a couple years over the road, and then I became an owner operator. And then from an owner operator, I started my own company. And in my own company, that led to me driving to as a driver at the same time, but also to brokering at the same time.
So, Damian, I never had anybody who's been a broker before, so I think I'm gonna have a lot of questions for you
Yeah.
because brokers, like they don't have a good repute in trucking industry, in my
No, we're just
opinion.
robbing people. That's
Exactly.
everybody thinks that, right?
That's what the impression is. So, but you can explain me how does it work. But before that,
Mm.
so what kind of trucking have you done? Is it general freight or
Yeah, so it would be considered more general freight, just reefer and dry van. Yeah, that's what I
right?
mostly
And
stuff
how far have you gone?
So California, but I've ran the whole East Coast, pretty much majority of the East Coast, West Coast, and a lot of Midwest. So
And
both.
Damien, before we get to something else, just explain me how was your experience? Are you satisfied with what you did? And what is your approach to trucking at this point?
Yeah, I'm very satisfied about trucking. It's provided everything I have and more, and I'm super grateful. I've met a lot of great people in trucking. I've learned a lot about myself in trucking just by spending time away from others and being by myself. So I learned a lot about myself. So yeah, I can't complain. It's been
You're
good.
talking about being lonely
Mm.
in a positive way.
Yeah, because you know what? I feel like sometimes when we're around people a lot, especially the wrong people, we end up coming off track, right? But when you spend time by yourself, you get to learn who you are, what you want, and yeah, you just works. You do what works for you, and not what works for other people, right?
I
So
actually
yeah,
share this opinion.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think being alone
Mhm.
by yourself makes you creative.
yeah, yeah, 100%. You sit there. I always tell people, if you don't know what you want to do with your life, get into trucking. I promise you, in like probably a year or two, you'll probably figure out what you want to do if trucking's not what you want to do forever, because you have so much time to think and plan and execute, right? So, and that's what I did. That's how I was able to accomplish certain things, right? Getting into investing into real estate, certain things like that, starting my own company and stuff like that. Certain decisions was just because I was able to just be by myself and think, right? To where I want to go next. So yeah,
I personally
yeah,
think it's extremely
yeah,
intelligent.
yeah.
And you're taking this opportunity to do something bigger than what you're doing already, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, Damien, so how did you get into trucking? I mean, what's the thought process here? You just wake up one day and be like, I want to get into trucking?
Actually, it almost sounds like that actually. So I'm like a second generation trucker, you would say. I have uncles who've been in trucking for pretty much my whole of my existence, 30 years. So growing up as a kid, I seen them in trucking. I heard the ups and downs, the great things, like about the money, of course, and also too I was able to see like when my uncles bought like their first truck, they took me and they showed me. So like I fell in love, and then also too at like in high school, those job fairs and stuff like that. A trucker showed that they had like a trucker there. I was the only one who went up to the table. They had like a pamphlet, and everything, and like a book showing like what you can, what the avenues in trucking, where you can go and what you can do, and how much money you can make and stuff like that. I took that pamphlet, I slept with it underneath my pillow,
Wow,
like a
that's
loser,
something.
like a loser. I used to play the simulator games for like hours.
I don't think that's loser. I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
very, you know what you don't. Like a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah. Don't
people,
know what they want, right?
especially our generation, didn't even know what they were doing there with their life, right?
No, no, yeah, and most people always think about. People will ask me like, out of all things in the world, you picked trucking. Most people like it's like a second career for them. It's never like a first choice, right?
Right.
But I know I love trucks, right? I love trucks. I love them, right? Like I like being around them. I like fixing them. like fixing the things I do know how to fix,
Yeah, of
So
course.
like,
Yeah.
so yeah, like I like, yeah, I love it, right? So yeah,
Yeah, so that's
that's
good. I mean, see, as long as you're satisfied,
yeah,
and it seems like you've been very, very satisfied with what you did.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
like that's what matters the most.
yeah.
Now, Damien, let's talk about brokerage. How do you, well, first of all, explain me what brokerage is in, for an average person who doesn't understand what brokerage is in transportation.
So a broker is pretty much somebody who's a middleman. So what a broker does is they go out there to a bunch of different shippers. It can be ABC shipper who who builds furniture parts, or whatever, or ABC shipper who does automotive parts. And then what you do as a broker, you go there, you ask them like, um, do you, would you need us to move something from point A to point B? If they say yes, you negotiate a rate, you bid, then you take that, you go out there, you find a carrier, and you negotiate with the carrier on the rate, and then you take something out of there. So if the load is paying $1,000, you might take 200, give 800 to the carrier, and that's how it goes.
And
Like, yeah.
how did you get into this? Tell us about it.
Oh, I kind of got into it by default, to be honest with you. So when I started my own trucking company, I knew that pretty much to grow in trucking, when I looked at other trucking companies, you need stability. Like you can go and move broker freight forever, but it's not stable, right? Like a broker is always looking for the best rate. So this week he might give me $1,000 for a load, but next week he's telling me 700 because the market's bad. So like sure, right? No, it's just because he has a guy who's willing to do it for 700, so he wants you to go to 650 and do
Mhm.
it, right? So I knew I needed stability if I wanted to grow. So I went out there and I started cold calling different manufacturers and stuff like that, and then I found my first one, and then from there I was one truck. I'm only a one truck operation at that time and stuff like that. So I knew that I can't do all the work, but if I can give other people the work and take a percentage, then why not? Because as you do good with a customer, usually your volume will increase. So that's what happened with me, right? They started off by giving me one load, which I could do myself at the time, and then from there, one turned to two, two turned to three. Then all of a sudden, I started doing controlling 10, controlling 15 a day, even sometimes more on the busy seasons, and yeah, and I was just, and then you just take a,
Good money in brokerage?
oh, honestly, your overhead is so low, right? You can literally run a brokerage from your house in your room,
Oh,
right?
it does
Or
make
it
sense.
depends
Yeah.
on how far you want to take it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like trucking. Trucking has so much overhead, right? You might need to hire, as you get bigger, you need to hire obviously drivers. That's an expense, right? You need more trucks. That's an expense. You need trailers. You need parking. Insurance. Everybody's insurance is different, right? Everybody gets different insurance quotes. Those things can increase also too every year depending on your safety record.
Hmm.
There's so much overhead. In a brokerage, you can
Right.
literally say, okay, you know what? I don't want to really grow. I have
Mhm.
maybe 2, 3 customers, and you stick with your 2, 3 customers and work with that. But there's pros and cons in both of them.
Mhm.
Because as a trucking company, even if you lost your direct shipper today, you could still move your truck some way, by using broker freight, right? But if you lose all your customers as a broker, you don't have any equipment, right? So you got to go out there and find other customers, which that's hard. It's not easy to find
Not
customers,
very
right?
business smart, but my understanding is I've heard a lot of people complain about the brokerage is making the most of the money in trucking industry. So it's not the trucking company, or it's not the drivers, or the shippers that are trying to. It's the brokerage that is saving a lot of money out of transportation. Is it true?
I feel like every broker is different. Every brokerage is different. Some are, yeah, they don't care. Like they know that what they're giving you is you can't operate. But they
Hmm.
know that you're gonna take it because why your truck is in a bad place right now, and guess what? Either you take it or you don't. There's a million other guys who will take it. So I think it just depends too on what broker you're dealing with and what. For me, I'm a driver first, so
True.
I'm not like that, right? Right? I try to be fair, right? I've even lost
Right.
on some freight.
You care for the hard work.
Yeah, I've even lost. I've lost,
Oh
right? I've
wow.
lost. Like meaning, for example, like let's say it's busy season and my load is paying, let's say $1,000, but really and truly right now for that lane, the market is saying 12, 13, 14. The extra $300, it's coming out of my pocket. I don't even make anything,
Oh wow.
you know? So I just take a complete loss,
Mhm.
right? But I make the customer happy and I make the carrier happy too at the same time, right?
Mhm.
So sometimes you lose, right? That's just part of business, right? So but yeah, no, for sure there is some brokers out there who are trying to take your eyes out.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
well, that's why,
yeah,
you always see complaints and
yeah,
problems and
yeah,
okay, so Damien, let's talk about trucking in general. So you are based just around GTA area, Greater Toronto area.
yeah.
So you've probably seen a lot of things happening and trucking changing extremely crazily just in the past years or so. So tell us, how do you see the change in trucking that is coming? You see this positively, negatively. What is your impression about the roads today,
Mm.
and what do you see
Well,
overall your experience?
trucking has changed a lot, especially right now. A lot of people are suffering in trucking, drivers and companies, right? Because some drivers are losing their jobs because trucking companies are going out of business, right? And some drivers are facing like they're not being paid on time. There's a lot of changes happening, right? Like,
So why are trucking companies going out of business?
oh, there's a lot of things. The reason why a lot of trucking companies are going out of business because some of them are just literally they're not running a trucking company. They're running like it's for immigration. That's it, right? They're getting
Oh
30,
wow.
they're getting 30, 40,000 per person, and then
Explain
paying
me
them,
this.
and then
Explain
paying,
me. So
and
now
then
I don't think everybody
yeah,
understands
yeah.
this.
So like you heard of like LMIA, right? So a lot of these companies have abused that program, right? They're charging people for sponsorship for like 30, 40 grand, and then they're paying them dirt cheap, right? So now that's all catching up to them because, as you know, immigration has slowed down in Canada, right? So that's a big one. And then also too, some companies they have grown too fast. COVID was great, right? Everybody wanted to expand
Well,
their
grows
fleet.
great for the truck drivers,
Yeah, yeah,
the
it was.
trucking companies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great, right? So people expanded way too fast, and they didn't
Mm,
think that it's ever gonna adjust itself. Trucking is like a roller coaster, right? It happens if you talk to any veteran who's been in the industry for a long time, they'll tell you like trucking goes up and down, right? It's like a cycle every 7 or 10 years. Something, that's just how it goes, right?
right.
So some people they didn't educate themselves before they came into the industry,
Hmm.
right? And trucking
Hmm.
is not one of those industries you could do that with. Like you got to know what you're doing. You have to know your numbers. A lot of
Hmm.
these companies, you'd be surprised, they actually really don't know their numbers.
Hmm.
They don't know their numbers,
Right.
right? So they don't even realize that they're operating at a loss until it's too late, and then oh shoot, we're not making any money to pay nothing, so we got to close
Hmm.
our doors. People buy it overpriced equipment. They're paying way too much stuff for their equipment. Their interest rates are too high on certain under loans, right? So and now it's catching up to them, right?
Hmm.
So trucking, you have to start off properly. Like you cannot come into here and think it's gonna be like a free for all and you're gonna make it. You're gonna get rich quick scheme. I don't know. Like trucking, to be honest with you, is one of the lowest profit margin businesses, right? Like especially for a small size carrier, your profit margins are probably anywhere between 5 to 10%.
Did you know that a lot of truck drivers are going to disagree with you?
Yeah, because they're gonna disagree because they see these companies with the big shiny equipment and the new trailers and the shiny office, and they think they're making a whole bunch of money, and that's not the case. Because guess what? Everybody has different numbers. My
Hmm.
numbers are different than I'm running. Let's say my trucking company, my numbers will be different than yours.
Hmm.
I might have cheaper insurance. Your insurance might
Hmm.
be out the roof. Your parking might be $600, but I'm paying 200. Your staff, your dispatchers, you're paying them, let's say 4 to 5 grand a month,
Hmm.
but I'm paying my dispatcher 3 grand a month. The numbers are all different. Everybody's
Right.
numbers are different. So a lot of drivers, they don't know that because they're not in. And also too, even my direct freight might be numbers are different too
Hmm.
on my freight than yours.
Hmm.
I might be able to run at a lower cost than you. You might need more from your customers.
Right.
Well, now that's an issue. When you need more money now, some customers they're looking for the cheapest. Sometimes they don't really care about okay, you're a great carrier, but no, we don't want to pay you $3 a mile for whatever lane. Well, no, we want to pay 250, so they come to me.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of stuff, right? Like and a lot of companies are facing that problem because people who are using Driver Inc. Even that, I understand why drivers like Driver Inc. more because I was one of those drivers too.
And
Because you
why do
get
they? So for the audience here, so Driver Inc. is a lot. You hear this term a lot.
being paid as a
It's
contractor.
basically you're not being employed,
No, you're a contractor,
right?
but you own no equipment.
But you still drive the company's
You drive
equipment.
the company has all the responsibilities and you have none. or you get a
And
lower.
what's the downsides to this? That you're not employed, you have no rights,
Yeah,
basically.
you
right?
have no rights. Also, too, they can tell you have a nice day. They can just fire you. Not like if you work at, let's say you're working a job somewhere, Walmart. Walmart, you can't just. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
go
yeah.
on.
No,
Go
yeah.
on.
But you can't just go in. They're just not gonna get up and just fire you.
Yeah.
They can't do that. There's a procedure, right?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. So they can't do that, right? But
Mhm.
when you're working as a contractor, you're self-employed, so we don't need your services anymore, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of and in that situation there, companies, when you're paying a guy, let's say 60 cents per mile, and that's all you have to pay him. You don't have to pay no benefits, no nothing, right? Okay, let's say 60, let's say 65 because of HST, right?
Mhm.
Because they pay you HST on top of that.
Right.
It's still cheaper than a carrier who has to pay payroll. That carrier who's paying payroll, he might have to pay 80 cents per mile.
So in this whole process, only thing that is being robbed is the government, right?
Oh, the driver is being robbed too in a way, and the government obviously is being robbed too. The driver is being robbed too because number one, you're not getting you don't get no benefits at all, right? And if you are going to get benefits on the driver Inc. side, you're going to be paying for that for yourself, which that's obviously more money when you're going out there and getting your own benefits, right?
Mhm.
So you're not getting any of that. Your rights too. Your rights are just less. They can get up today and say, we just don't need you today
Mhm.
anymore, and there's nothing much you can really do about it because you're a business owner.
That
at
sounds
that point.
scary.
Yeah, you're a
Yeah,
business
yeah.
owner, right? A lot of people don't look at that, right? And the company's saving so much money, but in those companies, that's why those companies actually go and they can able to bid cheaper too. If I'm paying my driver 60 cents, but and I'm 60 cents a mile, but you're a company who has to pay 80 cents per mile. That's a big difference.
It is huge. Yeah, no doubt.
That's
Yeah,
a big
yeah.
that's a big difference, right? So yeah, like that's one of the big things in the industry right now. But you're seeing that is changing, right? The
Well,
government's
hopefully it goes away.
the government's investing a lot of
Yeah.
money into that, to get that to go away. It's gonna be hard, right? They're gonna start auditing companies and stuff like that and seeing how they're paying their drivers and stuff like that. They're gonna start
Mhm.
cracking down on that so we'll see. But
I mean, let's bring you
yeah.
back to the put the driver hat on.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some of the problems drivers face on the road?
Oh, well, a lot, like weather, of course, is one that's, the other drivers around you, right? Food, just a living, right? You have a lot, you deal with a lot, right? Stress. Then if you have your own family stress, that's a whole nother.
So what's the difference between work stress and family stress?
Oh, what's the difference between work stress and family stress? Well, family stress and work. Well, the two differences that you can only deal with one at a time because family stress is over there if you're over the road, and work stress is right in front of you,
You
right?
know,
So
the reason I asked this silly question is
yeah,
because
yeah.
in trucking, if you're a truck driver,
Mm.
you should never bring your family stress into work because that can be very dangerous.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing, right? That you need a family who supports what you do, and they understand not to stress you out and stuff like that, or at least as much as possible, you know.
Did you face any opposition from your family when you got into trucking?
Not really. Like maybe my mom. She didn't really because she knows it's dangerous.
Yeah.
But
Well, tell me how it's dangerous. Tell to the people that think truck drivers are just lazy, bad people just out there, causing problems on the road.
well, yeah, think about it. Like let's say for example, like today's bad weather. Most
Tell us
people,
what's happening outside.
yeah, it's snowing like crazy outside. So like most people, they can get up today and just call in and just be like, you know what, I'm not coming in today to the office or whatever. And most likely your boss will probably understand. Okay, it's probably bad, whatever. Maybe work from home.
Mhm.
Truck driver, your office is the truck
On the wheels.
so you're still going out no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So it's just it's very dangerous, of course, right? And the problem is too, you have to really worry about the other people. It's not really so much the truck drivers
Mhm.
because you're a professional driver. You know what comes with it. You should slow down. You have 60,000-80,000 pounds on you. So but most people, they're not really thinking about that. They look at you. A lot of people actually too, they think that just because you're driving a truck, it's actually better in the wintertime. It's a complete opposite. You could have the best tires, you're still slipping,
Yeah.
right? Like so but a lot of people, I've had people say like, well, you're driving that truck, so you got it's good, right? In the winter. Like, no. It's actually not. I'd rather actually probably drive the car.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
the finest advice is if you see a truck, doesn't matter winter or
yeah,
summer,
yeah,
just try to keep away from the truck
yeah.
because there's a lot of things that an average person doesn't know about trucks.
Mhm, mhm,
Just keep away.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people don't realize that like, the weather sometimes is so bad that like they don't realize that it takes us longer to stop. They
Yeah.
shouldn't sit in front of us. Like they should be away. Like get away from us, right? Like,
Damien, why are we on the road? I know we are on the road because it's our job,
Mm.
but ultimately it's for the people.
yeah. It's for the people. Anytime you see a truck on the road, it's for somebody. It's not for him, that's for sure. Most likely.
Yeah.
Well, it's for him too, probably in certain
Well,
ways.
he's
but
making
it's
some
fine.
earning there.
Yeah,
but
but a lot of times it's for the people, right? Like so. But I think people kind of forget about that. They did remember in COVID though, when the
Mhm.
shelves are empty, right? When the shelves are empty, they realize like, oh shoot, now I know why we need these guys. Before people ever
I
thought
think
like
people are already
yeah,
forgotten now.
yeah. Oh yeah, because that's a past tense. Maybe if we have another COVID or something like
No
that,
toilet paper crisis anymore.
Yeah. Oh man, COVID was bad,
Yeah.
man. Like they couldn't even even the most expensive things in the store, like steak, you couldn't even get that. Those things were off the shelves and stuff like that. And then that's what everybody was praising truck drivers, like, oh, you guys, whatever, right? So,
Mhm.
but now it's like, yeah, done and over with. That's old news. You guys, yeah.
Damien, let's talk about health.
Health. Okay.
So, health of truck drivers is a very neglected topic.
Mhm.
Nobody cares who they are. Nobody cares the kind of suffering they have.
Mhm.
Nobody cares the kind of food they eat. Tell us, is this a real impression that nobody cares for truck drivers' health?
Well, yeah, it seems like that, right? Because nobody talks about it. Not even most truck drivers don't even talk about their own health, much less. They may, they don't. I don't think some truck drivers are even worrying about enough about their own health. So yeah, it's something talked about for sure. And you don't really hear much companies. I've been to I haven't company hopped that much, but I've been to a few companies, and I can't ever recall a company ever talking about anything about health.
Yeah.
Like they
Not
don't.
even
They
education,
don't,
I believe. I
yeah,
mean,
they don't,
like
yeah.
let's say a trucking company ran like a health session every 3 months, right?
Yeah, I
Is
don't.
every human needs some sort of reminder
Yeah,
that, buddy, just watch yourself.
yeah,
Like I mean, and
yeah.
especially when you do this type of job that involves sitting, you don't have no exercise, you may not have the best options to eat,
Mhm.
right? So, like just bit of reminder, like telling people, just take care of your health, you're important.
Yeah,
And physically and mentally, right?
yeah, exactly, right. But that's not a common thing in the industry. I don't know if that will ever change, but no, most companies
So
they don't.
why do you think it's not?
Well, to be honest with you, really and truly, a lot of companies they just care about keeping their wheels moving. It's not important. Like if you want to worry about your health as a person, as a growing up, you worry about your health. We don't have time for that. We gotta keep things moving here, right? They don't. It's just not a priority. They don't. It's just not a big thing, which doesn't really make sense to be honest with you, because without the driver, you have nothing.
Hmm.
You have no company. Simple as that.
Yeah.
You just have no company, right? So it's something what they should care about and they should talk to guys about, because some people actually just don't even know how to take care of their health. As much as it may seem crazy to some people, but it's the truth, right? Some people actually don't know. Some people have never worked out a day in their life.
Hmm.
One day they got into trucking, they were slim, and then the other day now they're not slim anymore,
Hmm.
and they're big. So it's like but some people they actually just don't know where to start.
Hmm.
Some people need a direction. Start off by doing small things, walking, doing jumping jacks.
Hmm.
Go from there. Then from
Right.
there, maybe you can get yourself to the gym, right?
Right.
Smart, but
But what do you think? So that was my suggestion. Maybe run like a session every,
Mm.
3 months or so. What do you think trucking companies should jump in and do?
What you just said was good. Yeah, run sessions every 3 months, every 2 months. Send out emails, send out stuff on we all have these things in the truck. We all have ELDs and stuff like that. The dispatchers can send messages, send stuff.
Hmm.
Send something like a reminder, like, hey, after when you're done or in your 30-minute break, go for a 20-minute walk, or after when you're done your shift tonight, do this, or even make some challenges.
Hmm.
Videotape yourself walking for 15 minutes or doing push-ups or doing this type of challenge, and we'll reward you by giving you this.
So videotape you driving, but they won't videotape you
Yeah,
doing exercise, right?
Yeah, tell the driver, yeah, like show that you did this,
Yeah.
show that you did something, and then reward them or something like that. Give them
Mhm.
like a small gift card or something like that. Make it kind of fun, right? Doesn't have to cost that much money, but if you want to, you'll figure out a way.
I mean, talking about fun, let's have some fun with some rapid questions here.
Yeah,
So your favorite state to drive in, or the province?
Texas,
What's your most hated place to be in?
Bronx.
Bronx?
Yeah, I don't like driving down
You
there.
driven a lot of New York?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like the Bronx. Yeah,
And why is that?
too congested. Cars, people, they don't care. If a guy needs to go to, like, literally, this happened. Let's say a guy needs to go to the corner store. He'll literally stop right there in front of you.
In a live
Put the
lane.
four ways on. You have to go around. Like, he just goes, because there's no parking, right? So he just stops. He just gotta go do what I gotta do. You gotta figure it out. Yeah. So
What pisses you off the most on the road?
people sitting in my blind spot. Yeah.
Well, talk to the people that don't
Yeah.
know what you're talking about.
So sitting in your blind spot. So there's parts in the mirror where I can't see you.
Yeah.
In the truck, and people will be sitting there, and I can't see them, or can't see them clearly, and I may merge over, and then there's the problem, right? If I merge over and crush you, hurt each other, I hurt
The
you,
lesson
hurt me.
of the story is
just don't stay beside the truck.
keep away from trucks.
Yeah, just
right?
stay
Okay,
far away
what's
from me.
your most favorite thing about being a truck driver?
The equipment. Yeah, I just love being in a truck. Like I don't know, I just like being in a large vehicle. That's my most favorite thing, I think I say. And besides the money too, but yeah. Yeah, when I get,
How do you define a bad truck driver?
Oh, somebody who's not aware of their surroundings and they don't think ahead. They're not defensive at all.
And how do you define a perfect truck driver on the road?
Somebody's aware of their surroundings and actually always trying to improve themselves, and somebody who's not a know-it-all, who's open to learning.
How do you define a good trucking company?
You know what? Talking to other truck drivers to help. Well, some guys, they bullshit, right? Because they have one bad problem, so they make it seem like the company's bad. But also, too, looking on Google is a big one, and talking to that company and figuring out what you want as a driver, and then trying to align it with the company.
What should you do if you face extremely bad weather and you are en route?
Pull over. Whenever what I learned from my uncles was that once your mind tells you like you've had enough, doesn't matter if you've been driving for 20, 40, 50 years or even 1 year, pull over. That's what it is. Everybody's skill level different. Just because you see one guy flying down the highway doesn't mean you can do the same thing. You don't realize this guy's been running that same highway for the last 20, 30 years.
But let's say if you stopped and then the company's not happy in the morning.
That's their problem. Who cares? If that's not a company for you.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's not a company for you.
Yes.
That's not a company for you. That's
Yeah.
that's actually a company where you should just think about quitting.
Yes.
Maybe you just quit on the spot too.
Yeah.
Joking.
Just
Don't do that.
Leave the
Don't-
truck.
Yeah, don't do that. You always put your 2 weeks in.
Yes. Yes. Just be ethical.
Yeah. But I'm
Yeah,
just joking.
yeah,
But
yeah.
no, that's for sure not a company for you. If a company cannot understand that, like I've had times where companies who are doing loads for me and the outside is bad, and the company calls me and they tell me, oh, the driver has to pull over, it's outside is bad and stuff like that. I never get mad. I just email the customer, I let the customer know, and that's what's gonna happen, and that's what it is. And it's all about communication, though. Letting them once you find out that you can't do it, don't just let them know right away. It's all about communication.
How do you deal with a very grumpy truck driver at a truck stop?
If you meet you know what? Actually, you can't please everybody, and a lot of times it's good not just don't fight fire with fire. If he's pissed off of you for something stupid because of what you said or whatever, you can speak your mind if you want to, or you can just walk away, leave, whatever it is. If your day is going fine, why are you gonna make somebody else ruin your day? This is what it is. Don't fight fire with fire. Simple as that. Yeah.
Okay, Damian, let's bring you to the transition within trucking industry, which is a whole bunch of newcomers, new Canadians getting into trucking.
Mm.
And, there's a whole bunch of reasons for this. A lot of people think it's quick money, it's easy money, some people think, but they only say it up until they get into
Yeah, until they
trucking
get it,
and
yeah.
they realize it's not easy money. It's very
Yeah.
hard money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is hard
tell
money.
me, what is your opinion about newcomers coming into trucking?
I have nothing against it, but it's all about how you get into the industry, right?
Is it a problem? Let's say I moved to this country,
Mm.
like not long ago,
Mhm.
and I don't have a whole bunch of road experience. And somewhat, I struggle with the infrastructure too sometimes to navigate it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm driving a big rig.
Is that a problem? Yeah, that's 100% a problem. Because right there and then, you just sound like you lack confidence probably in yourself too. And that's a problem when you're driving a truck, right? You have no confidence. No, I think if you just come to this country, you're not familiar with the roads, you should get familiar with the roads. And another thing too, it's if you know you cannot read the basic signs and stuff like that, yeah, you should work on your English first, learn how to actually read the signs, because that's a liability. Like, it could be a simple sign which says, 2 miles down the road, bridge is closed. You can't read that. You drive. There's the bridge is closed. Now, what do? You
Actually, you
can't
know
turn.
what? I know this is happening more in the US
Yeah,
where,
yeah,
they're taking your English test.
yeah.
I haven't met a person who's against it. I haven't met a person who said, I think this is wrong. I mean, if a driver does not speak English, it's fine for them to drive.
Yeah, because most people I think won't be against it because it's just like it's a safety thing. What if the sign's telling you like, don't go down this street because people are working on the road, and then you take this big truck down the street and kill somebody? It's the middle of the night. Guys are working on the road. Maybe this one guy forgot to he's not wearing his reflector vest because he put in his freaking pickup truck. He's walking back to the truck. It could be something that's most smallest thing, right?
Mhm,
Anything can happen, right? It's life, right?
mhm.
So it's like, but you couldn't read that one little sign what could have maybe saved that guy's life. Yes, it's his fault because he didn't have a vest on, whatever, right?
Let me tell you something.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
when like you live in Canada or the US, I think everybody speaks some level of English. This
Yeah.
is not, again, I'm
Mm.
not saying I'm 100% right. This is my understanding. So, you speak some level of English, but I think when you are being questioned by any authority that, the question can be, like you've done something wrong and they're questioning you about this. Sometimes I think people just use this as an excuse that, oh, look, I can't communicate with you because I don't have enough language.
Well, yeah, some
This
people
is
do
my
that.
understanding.
Some people, yeah, some
Yeah.
people do that. That's for sure. Like they just because they don't want to be bothered, right? It's like, no English, man. Just
But
like yeah.
this excuse is not going to
Yeah,
work
yeah, yeah. No, it's
when
not gonna be.
when you're putting somebody's livelihood in,
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah,
danger,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not going to work.
That is true. There's some people who probably do that. Like they just don't want to bother with you, so they just say no English because it's just easier. Like, I don't waste my time with this. But now that's not gonna work anymore, But I think like yes, you should be able. I'm not saying you have to be the best at speaking English, but like I think you should just be able to understand like at least the signs. Like that's just a big thing for me. Like you know what I mean? Like just at least be able to read the signs
Here's a
and the
piece of
street name.
information. Anybody in the province of Ontario who's willing to get a truck license, they're supposed to have at least high school education,
Yeah, grade 10, right?
or if they don't have that, let's say somebody who's a foreign education, they don't have the high school diploma from the province of Ontario, they're supposed to pass an intelligence test. And this intelligence test is actually a combination of language, math, science, and some, general knowledge questions.
Hmm.
They're supposed to pass before they can even enroll into a school. Bingo.
So
Piece of information
yeah.
right there.
So they're supposed to pass. Well, then unless somebody's, but also so there's probably ways around that. Like there's probably ways around that. There's for sure places around that. Like there's probably some way they're cheating on that test, some way somehow. Like yeah, like it has to be because if not, then like why are they coming up with these laws that you need to learn how to speak English? If you don't know how to speak English, now we're gonna take your
Mhm.
license and this and that. Like so there must be a way around it.
Mm-hmm. Damian, how did you manage to keep yourself in shape while
Well,
being the driver?
while being a driver, well, number one, I don't do long haul anymore, so that's a big thing, right? When I was doing long haul, I was a little bit out of shape.
So long haul is bad on the body, and local work is bad on the brain,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
stressful.
yeah, it is stressful, right?
Yeah.
Depending on where you work too, right? Like some local operations are very simple, straightforward. It depends, right? And then some local operations of course, are bad on the brain for sure,
Mhm.
messed up, right? But I think too a big thing. It's all about if you want to. I think even for long haul, it's all about if you make up your mind and say, you know what, I want to get in shape. You'll find a way. You'll eat better. You'll eat cleaner. You'll start to do things with your own body weight, walking, running, push-ups, squats, certain things like that. You might bring a dumbbell. You might bring a kettlebell with you. Start working out. But it's all about if you want to. It starts with up here first, your mindset. If you don't want to, then you just won't. Doesn't matter if you even do local. There's guys who do local and they're out of shape still,
Mhm.
right? So it's all about if you want.
Damian, my opinion is, and you're going to talk about this, and you're going to tell me if I'm wrong.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of racism in trucking,
Hmm.
and I actually believe this.
Oh yeah, well
There's
yeah.
a lot of racism. There's actually groups from different ethnic backgrounds within trucking industry in Canada. I don't know about the US a lot,
Mm.
and they just hate each other.
Well, yeah,
It is true or not true?
it's true, of course. I mean, I'd be lying if I tell you it's not true. It's right. A lot of it's right in front of your face, right? But a reason for that is because too, there's a lot of people who they don't understand each other. Simple as that. I don't understand how you do certain things. You don't understand how I do certain things. And then some people too also, why I think some people face a lot of racism is because they're doing certain things unsafe, and then it's happening in numbers,
True.
right?
I
It's
agree to
it's
this
happening
much.
in
Yeah.
numbers. So it's like that.
Similar group of
Yeah,
people doing
just
similar
keep doing the
stuff.
same thing.
Yeah.
So then now it turns into people not liking those people. And then there's a few obviously good ones in there, but then they suffer too for the bad ones, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yes.
so everybody.
I think they are real victims.
Yeah, they're the real victims, right? Like now everybody is, no, you guys
Yeah.
are all like this,
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
But a lot of it too has to do with communication, and also too, just like, the ones who are doing really bad and then they're endangering people on the road, right? And then it keeps happening too. So not only that one person does it, but then a week or 2 or 3 or a month later, it's the same thing again. And then when you look, it's the same community. So then it's like now people are like, oh no, it's just them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And even if another person from another community who looks different does it, you won't really hear it but at the same time, it doesn't really happen so much on that community. So it's like, okay, you know what? He made a mistake, something went wrong, da 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 da. But then if the other community does it, it's like, no, he did it on purpose. This is what happened. He wasn't doing this. He was probably on his phone, whatever, right? They start, people start putting all type of things
Mm-hmm.
out there, right? So, but yeah, there's a lot of racism for sure in trucking. So yeah.
Yeah. So, Damian, I know you have told me that you don't have any kids at this point,
Mm.
but if you ever did, would you want them to get into transportation and truck driving?
Depending on the person. Yeah, if I see that they have the passion for it and they love it and they want to be a part of what I'm doing, right? Like trying to grow a business again, eventually again, and they want to do it, then yeah, for sure. Right? Like, yeah, for sure I would. But it just depends, right? But I would let them know it's not going to be easy, right? It's not going to be a walk in the park, right? You're not
Mhm.
going to just come in and it's going to be easy. Like it's not a regular 9 to 5,
Yes.
right? It's a sacrifice, right? So, but there's a lot of opportunity, right? Like it's all about how hard you're willing to work, what you're willing to do.
Damian, I want to thank you for joining us today, and thank you for watching the show. See you guys next Sunday.
Thank you for having me.
If you live in the GTA area or just in the surroundings and you feel that you have stuff to say about trucks, do reach out to us at info@thetruckstop.ca. Till then, watch you guys next time.